Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a branded Despia deck profile. So I'm really excited to do something for you guys because this deck is one of the most powerful fusion decks ever created, and one of the best decks to play this format. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Aluber. Aluber is definitely a 3-of in the build because this card is the best summon in the entire deck because it instantly gets you to branded fusion. With the ability, if this card is normal or special summon, you get to add a branded spell or trap from your deck to your hand. We then play 3 copies of Fallen of Albaz. Fallen of Albaz is a key combo piece in the deck to help you go for all of your fusion plays, but this card is also a walking super polymerization, which is insane. We then play 3 copies of Albion the Shrouded Dragon. This card is definitely a 3-of as well in the deck, because this card basically is an upstart goblin for the deck. We then play 2 copies of Blazing Cartesia. Blazing Cartesia is an amazing 2-of in the build because this card is basically a walking polymerization with the ability, if you control a copy of Fallen of Albaz or it's in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. And during the main phase, quick effect, you can actually fusion summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster from your X deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. And during the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add this card from your graveyard back to your hand, which is a great ability to instantly get this card back so you can use it all over again and go for more fusion plays. We then play 2 copies of Quim. Quim is an amazing 2-of in this build because this card is also treated as a Dogmatica and a Despia card, which is so cool. And this card is the ability, if it's normal or special summon, you can actually send a Fallen of Albaz or a card that mentions it from your deck to the graveyard, which is such a powerful deck to help you get your exact card you need in the grave. Also, this card has an insane ability. If a card leaves the extra deck, you can actually target a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it in your graveyard and special summon it, which is an awesome ability. We then play a single copy of Mercurier. Mercurier is an awesome 1-of in the build because this card is basically a hand trap for the deck, and just a really cool card overall because if it's banished, you get to add from your deck to your hand a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it, which is a really cool ability. We then play a single copy of Spriggan's Kit. I really like Kit as a 1-of in the build, but I feel like 1 is really all you need in this deck because it has the ability, if you have a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as a material on the field or in the grave, you can special summon this card from your hand, and it also helps you add your branded spells or traps to your hand, which is a really cool effect. We then play a single copy of Lubellion. Lubellion's a great 1-of combo piece in the deck because this card just comes in so handy in the build because it has the ability that you can actually special summon this card in your hand or grave by turning a level 6 or higher Dark Dragon monster, and also has the ability you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to add a Bestial monster from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to instantly get to a Bestial monster so we can use them as hand traps. And also, if this card's on your side of the field during the main phase, you can place a branded continuous spell trap from your deck face on your side of the field, which is such a powerful effect to help us get to cards like Branded Lost, and which is just absolutely amazing to help us get to cards like Branded Lost. We then play a single copy of Saunir. Saunir is great in this deck as 1-of to be able to use to basically just get the exact card you need in the graveyard, and also use this card basically as a hand trap, which is just so cool to be able to do. Basically deal with cards in the graveyard by banishing them that are light or dark, and also get a big body on your side of the field. We play a single copy of Magnamut. Magnamut is just really good overall in the build as well because this card searches our dragon monsters, which is really nice to be able to do, and it's just a fantastic hand trap to play. You can play a single copy of Maximus. Maximus is insane in this deck, so we do play the Nadir package in this build, which works really well in the decks. With the Nadir package, you can search Quim, or you can search your copy of Maximus, which is amazing, and it's super easy to summon this card out by basically banishing a fusion monster from your graveyard. You can special summon this card from your hand, and during the main phase, you can activate this effect that you can send 2 monsters with different names from your X deck to the graveyard, and also your opponent has to send 2 from their X deck to the graveyard, but you cannot special summon monsters in the X deck for the rest turn after you activate this effect, which is not that big of a deal, as we're basically going to go in for all of our plays before we use this. We then play a single copy of DDD Vice King Requiem. This is actually the replacement to the Gimmick Puppet lock, and this card basically reads the exact same way as Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. You cannot special summon except for DDD monsters, which is basically the exact same thing as the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, but this card basically is just for DDD monsters instead of Gimmick Puppet monsters, which is insane that they're so easy to replace. Again, they probably still need to hit Sanctifier because there's too many cards in the game as it stands they'd be able to deal with. So I feel like this card is just insane to be able to play in the deck instead of the Gimmick Puppet, because you can basically use this the exact same way as Gimmick Puppet to basically just hand this card to your opponent. It is a little bit larger because it does have 2,800 attack points and 2,000 defense, but it's very easy to use this card with Sanctifier to basically just lock down your opponent, where they can't special summon except for DDD monsters. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is an amazing one-of in the build just to stop your opponent's hand traps while you're going in for all of your plays. We're then playing a single copy of Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion is the most powerful card in the entire deck, and basically what the entire deck revolves around. This card helps you go in for all of your fusion plays, and it's just an amazing card. We then play a single copy of Triple Tactics Talent. Triple Tactics Talent is a really good one-of in the build because we do play Thrust in this deck, so this card is really good at helping you draw 2 cards, take control of an opponent's monster, or look at your opponent's hand and choose a card from it and shuffle it into the deck. We made a single copy of Gold Sarcophagus to be able to use their copy of Mercurier, because we can banish Mercurier to basically use it like a Rhoda. We then play a single copy of Branded in White. Branded in White is an amazing one-of in the build that's kind of like a Miracle Fusion for the deck, letting you fusion summon a fusion monster from your X deck, using monsters in your hand or field as material, including a dragon monster. You can also banish monsters from the graveyard as material if you use a copy of Fallen of Albaz as a material from your hand, field, or banishing itself from your graveyard, which is a really cool effect to help you go in for more fusion plays. We then play a single copy of Branded in Red. Branded in Red is really good in this deck as a one-of, just to help you fusion summon during your opponent's turn, because this card is a quick play spell card that lets you target a Despia or a Fallen of Albaz monster in your graveyard, add it back to your hand, and then fusion summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster from your X deck by banishing materials listed on it from your hand or field. But it cannot attack directly this turn, which is not that big of a deal because you're basically just using this card to react to the opponent. We play a single copy of Branded Lost. Branded Lost is insane to help basically protect your plays, and it's one of the most powerful cards in the entire deck. We then play 3 copies of Triple Tactics Thrust. Thrust is insanely powerful in this deck. This card can basically search Branded Fusion, which is why I play this card as a 3-of in the build. As your opponent decides to activate any monster effect, you can basically just use Thrust and get to Branded Fusion, which is really awesome in this build. We then play 3 copies of Fusion Deployment. Fusion Deployment is insane because this card can help you summon out your copy of Blazing Cartesia or your copy of Fallen of Albaz directly from your deck, which is so cool to be able to do to instantly get the exact monster you want on your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Nadir's Servant. Nadir's Servant is in the deck because we basically want to use this card to be able to work with our copy of Maximus, and it just helps a lot overall in the build for our plays. It does lock you out of the X deck for the rest of the turn, but it's so powerful in this deck and helps out so much in this build. We then play 3 copies of Branded in High Spirits. This card is one of the most powerful cards in the entire deck, and definitely a 3-of in the build, and lets you reveal a monster in your hand and then send a level 8 fusion monster from your X deck to the graveyard with the same type that has 2,500 attack or defense points. Then you can apply this effect to discard the revealed card, and if you do, add a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that lists that card in its text from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool effect to basically use this card kind of like a copy of Rhoda, which is really cool. And during the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add this card from your graveyard back to your hand, but you can only use 1 copy of this card per turn and only once that turn. We then play 3 copies of Branded Opening. Branded Opening is definitely a 3-of in the build because this card instantly summons our copy of Aluber from our deck to our side of the field, and then once we do, we get to add our copy of Branded Fusion or any of our branded spells or traps that we need from our deck to our hand. We then play 3 copies of Book of Eclipse. Book of Eclipse is just a really good board breaker card to basically just flip your opponent's cards face down so we can go in for game. Plus it helps protect our plays, so in case our opponent like Availers or Imperms our copy of Aluber or one of our other monsters, we can basically activate Eclipse to flip it face down so it loses targeting. We then play 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. Droplet is kind of like your copy of Book of Eclipse. It's just really good overall, basically breaking your opponent's board because you can use this card to half the attack points of your opponent's monsters and turn their field off, which is really, really nice. And overall, it's just a fantastic card this format. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing two, starting off with Fusion Duplication. Fusion Duplication is really good in this deck as a 1-0 because it lets you target a fusion or a polymerization normal spell or a quick play spell in either player's graveyard, banish the spell, and then apply that spell's effect when it would be activated, which works really well with cards like Branded Fusion, and it's insane in this deck as a 1-0. We then play a single copy of Branded Retribution. Retribution is an awesome counter trap that works really well in this deck and just an absolutely insane card to be able to use their copy of Albion the Shrouded Dragon. You can banish this card from your graveyard and then target a branded spell or trap in your graveyard, accept a copy of this card and add it back to your hand. So you basically use this card to recover your copy of Branded Fusion, which is really cool to be able to do. And it's just an awesome card overall in this deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with a single copy of Mirror Jade. Mirror Jade is an insane boss monster. It helps you spot remove cards off the field, and it's really just an insanely powerful card to be able to make and a really awesome boss monster. We play a single copy of Lubellion. Lubellion's really good in the deck as a 1-0. It's basically help us fusion summon the exact card we need by basically putting the materials back, which is really nice to be able to do. We then play 2 copies of Albion. Albion is really good as a 2-of in the build. Basically just summon one and have one to summon and one to send to graveyard off your copy of Mirror Jade's effect, which is just really good. But this card is basically a walking miracle fusion, which is really cool to basically going for the exact play that you need. Plus, this card has the ability, if it's in the graveyard because it was sent through this turn, you can actually add to your hand or set a branded spell or trap directly from your deck, which is such a cool effect. We play a single copy of Sanctifier. Sanctifier is insane and still as powerful as it ever was, even without Gimmick Puppet or Jowgin. This card is just absolutely broken to be able to use, because you basically just use your copy of Vice King Requiem the exact same way as the copy of Gimmick Puppet to basically lock down your opponent. They're not going to be able to special summon, and it's crazy powerful just to hand your opponent a copy of Vice King Requiem, because they're not going to be able to do anything. We then play a single copy of Titaniclad. Titaniclad is really good in the deck as a 1-of, just because it gets absolutely massive. Plus, if it does touch the graveyard, it helps you bring out your copy of your Quim, which is really, really good, or Fallen of Albaz, which is insane to be able to do. We play a single copy of Ridbrom. Ridbrom is a walking negate and can actually bring back your copy of Fallen of Albaz from the graveyard, which is insane to be able to do. It's just a really cool card overall. We play 2 copies of Dusk Dragon. Dusk Dragon is really good in the deck as a 2-of, because this card is basically a walking Foolish Burial. And this card actually does require Blazing Cartesia, which is why I play 2 copies of this card, because you can reveal it with your copy of Fusion Deployment to bring out Blazing Cartesia to your side of the field. If this card is Fusion Summon, you can send a level 6 or higher light or dark monster from your deck or extract to the graveyard. And if a monster is special summoned by your opponent's activated monster effect, you manage this card from the graveyard or from the field, and then special summon a Dogmatica monster from the deck or a Despia monster from your extract, which is a great effect to help you bring out your copy of Quiritis directly to your side of the field, which is so cool to be able to do. Quiritis is a really cool card, as you can just drop monsters down to 0, which is absolutely insane. We play a single copy of Light and Darkness Dragon Lord. This card is one of the most powerful cards in the entire extract, as this card is just a negate for absolutely no reason. This card is like 3 negates in 1, which is absolutely crazy. This card is basically the equivalent of an Appaloosa for fusions, which is insane. This card does require a level 8 light dragon monster and a level 8 dark dragon monster, which is very easy to do in this deck. And this card is really insane to be able to use, especially because you can also just absolutely just completely negate everything that your opponent does with this card. We play a single copy of Furious Dragon. Furious Dragon is just a good option overall. It helps you pop cards on the field. It's just a fantastic card in this deck. 1 copy of Guardian Chimera. Guardian Chimera is great in this deck as a 1-of, because it can use with your copy of Branded in red to basically just fusion summon this card, pop 2 and draw a card, or draw 2 and pop a card with this card, which is just really nice to be able to do. 1 copy of Dracosepalia, because this card is a walking negate. It's just really good in the deck overall. And then finally, a single copy of Garua. The reason I'm playing Garua is for the Dogmatica engine in the deck. To basically send this card to graveyard and get a draw, while also being able to have a card in the graveyard to use with Maximus, which is just really, really nice overall in this deck. So that's going to do this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is absolutely broken still, even though Gimmick Puppet Nightmare is no longer with us. And this deck is just so cool to be able to play still. And it's insane that you can basically just take out Gimmick Puppet Nightmare and then put in your copy of Ice King Requiem, and the deck still works basically the exact same way as it did before. And it's just absolutely crazy powerful. So that's going to do this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.